All right. If I'm going to read these trial transcripts, I might as well read it into a recording. And if you guys are driving down the road, you can simply play it. Or if you don't want to listen to it, this is going to be very long. Could go for hours. We got May the 7th through June the 13th of 2012. There's 23 days of trial transcripts. So maybe I'll try to read one a day and just try to get through them in the next month. I don't know. Well, sometimes there's several files for each day, but let's just get started. And I put it on low quality so the file is not so big, but if you guys want to listen, you can listen. This is day 2, May the 8th, 2012. U.S. versus Cox et al. TBJ day 2. Okay. It's case number 3:11-CR-00022-RJB, Anchorage, Alaska. It's United States of America versus Francis Schaeffer Cox, Coleman L. Barney, Lonnie G. Vernon. The judge is Robert J. Bryan. For the plaintiff, which will be the United States, you've got Steve Scrocky and Yvonne Lamoureux. For the defendant, Schaeffer Cox, you have Nelson Traverso. For the defendant, Coleman L. Barney, you have Timothy Dooley. For the defendant, Lonnie G. Vernon, you have M.J. Hayden. We have a court reporter of Denali Elmore, and we have transcription services by Transcripts. Okay, call to order of the court at 8:33 a.m. Jury not present, all parties present. The clerk, all rise. Okay, His Honor, the court, the United States District Court for the District of Alaska is now in session, the Honorable Court. The court, Robert Bryan, the clerk, J. Bryan presiding. The court, please be seated. How soon we forget. Okay, I think we're ready to go this morning, but there are a couple of preliminary things I need to deal with. First is the government's motion for clarification regarding the court's in-camera review of unredacted and corresponding redacted documents, which originally was in docket number 353. And this motion for clarification is in document 373. I have again painstakingly looked and compared those documents that were in issue, that were text messages at 341-1 and 341-2. I found no additional information in there that would be of any benefit to the defendants or that the government is required to disclose. And the motion for clarification is granted to that extent. Now we have this trial stipulation. I don't know if you want to take time to go through that now or later. Miss Lamoureux, we can do it later, Your Honor. The court. Let me find out who Miss Lamoureux is. Okay, that's Scrocky's sidekick, Yvonne Lamoureux. Okay. All right, and I got this note from juror number 3 that she was concerned about juror number 4 reacting to statements made in court. And I'm going to just kind of instruct everybody, including the jury, that they should, insofar as they're able to, maintain a stone face, so to speak, and not react to testimony by appearing to agree or disagree with it as it comes in. And that, of course, includes the defendants, all counsel, hopefully the spectators, and the jury. I'd rather do it in a general way than call attention to a particular juror. Okay, and Mr. Dooley, I understand you had something you wanted to raise before we started. And Dooley is... Who is Dooley? Oh, Dooley is the lawyer for Coleman Barney. Okay, the lawyer for Coleman Barney, Dooley says, yes, Your Honor, Mr. Scrocky had the foresight to provide us with the exhibit list of what he's going to try to put in today, and I thought before, while the jury's collecting, I had some relevance objections to a number of them, and if we handled it right now instead of piecemeal, it might save the jury time. The court, Mr. Dooley, or shall we? The court, well, you're suggesting a motion in limine when we are ready to start opening statements, and it's not really timely. And you know, I don't know how much it would save to get distracted. Mr. Dooley, sure. The court, on on that, at this point, I'd rather not keep the jury waiting. I guess is what I'm saying. If it is, Mr. Dooley, no, that's fine. The court will either get to it as they come up and we determine admissibility based on the identification, or if appropriate, we can take it up at the morning break or at noon without the jury waiting. Mr. Traverso, I have one short matter, Your Honor. The court, yes, Mr. Traverso. Side conversing. Mr. Traverso, just as we don't want the defendants to be walking in front of a jury, just as we don't want the defendants walking in front of a jury with leg irons and handcuffs, I don't want to tell the marshals or whoever it is that's involved with the dogs coming in. I think that could be particularly prejudicial when jurors are walking into the building. I'm not saying they shouldn't do the dogs, but could they do it at different times so the jurors didn't see that and reap in their mind that Schaeffer, Cox, Coleman, Barney, and Lonnie Vernon have some connection to the outside world with terrorism? The court, I'll talk to the marshals about that. I don't know what they're doing outside the courtroom, and I'll talk to them about it when we get to a break. Mr. Traverso, okay. The court is, well, Rochelle will remind me, somebody will. Is that Rochelle there? Yes, it is. She'll remind me, and we'll talk about that further, okay? Anything else preliminary? Mr. Scrocky, he's the jackass reprobate that's representing the United States. Mr. Scrocky, yes, Your Honor, I'm not sure to the extent of how long defense's counsel openings are going to take. I presume they're all going to do one. As you can see, we have a significant number of exhibits lined up behind us. We would request, in terms of judicial efficiency for the jury, that we be permitted a few minutes after the opening statement to organize all these things lined up so we can just funnel them through as we go. The court, sure. Thank you very much. The court, do you tell me if you need a break anytime, any of you? Mr. Scrocky, yes, sir. The court, I may not give it to you, but you can ask for it. I positioned that lectern the way I had it, and somebody moved it. Move it back. I want to see the face of the speaker, and I can if you move it back. I can get at an angle, and you're not totally turning your back on the defendants. So would you spin it so when you have the jury and me within view, you don't have to push it way back in the corner. You can pull it out a little bit, but you got it backwards. Miss Lamoureux. Okay, she's the sidekick to Scrocky, who's the jackass for the government. I'm not going to use it. I'm going to stand here. The court, no, you're not. And I'm going to keep my notes here. The court, I would request that you speak from the lectern within an arm's length of it at least, and you can put your notes on it and stand beside it, but I don't want you to approach the jury any closer than that. Miss Lamoureux, okay? The court, and bear in mind that you're speaking to the whole courtroom, not just to the jury. I want to be able to see what you're doing, see your face, and the defendants want to clearly be able to hear you. All right? Okay, anything else preliminary now? Miss Hayden, Your Honor, I did have one issue, and the court, yes, Miss Hayden? It may be appropriate to bring it up later. It's one of the government's proposed exhibits was the subject of my motion in limine, which the court has not ruled on, and that would be the court. What motion is that? I thought I ruled on everything and then some. Miss Hayden, well, I think the court reserved ruling. It has to deal with the letters that were found in Karen Vernon's purse. Side conversing. The court, oh, Miss Hayden, which would be government? The court, I reserved ruling until somebody identifies them and shows some relevance. In other words, I denied well, I may not have denied it, but I don't know yet enough to definitively rule on those letters. Miss Hayden, yes, Your Honor, I just wanted to give the court a heads up that I believe the government should be submitting those today, and I would have my objection to that. Well, the court, well, Miss Hayden, I believe it's the court, well, Miss Hayden, government's, the court, we'll get to it. Miss Hayden, Exhibit 104, the court, we'll get to it in the ordinary course of business. Miss Hayden, yes, sir, thank you. The court, all right, anything else preliminary? Okay, bring the jury in, if you will. Side conversing, jury in at 8:43 a.m. The court, please be seated, folks. When you come in, you can just come in and be seated. Okay, we're about to start here. I wanted to say one other thing about the trial process. Both counsel and defendants and the jury should try to avoid indication as the evidence comes in of what you think about it at that time. And so we discourage people from nodding in agreement or shaking their heads in disagreement. or making any indication of that nature as the evidence comes in. You'll hear a lot of things that you may think you agree with at the time, and you may disagree with them later, and it is sort of distracting, and also it's an inappropriate way for the parties to try and influence the jury by indicating as evidence comes in that it's good stuff or bad stuff or whatever. So a stone face is appropriate insofar as that's possible. All right? We will now commence with the opening statement with the counsel for the plaintiff. And Ms. Lamoureux, you may proceed. Please give your attention. This portion not requested. The court. Thank you, counsel. Mr. Traverso, do you wish to make your opening statement at this time? Mr. Traverso, I do, Your Honor. The court. All right. You can stand up and take a break in place while they get reorganized there. Folks, if you like to. Counsel, if you're going to speak from the lectern, if you'd angle it around a little bit. All right, folks, we'll wait until you get your water loaded there. Okay, please now give your attention to Mr. Traverso, who speaks for Mr. Cox. Opening statement by Defendant Cox. Mr. Traverso. Good morning to you all. As the judge said, I'm Nelson Traverso. I represent Francis Schaeffer Cox, and this is Roley Port, my investigator. Schaeffer is here, and you've met everybody else. The clerk. Mr. Traverso, your microphone's pointed in the wrong direction. The fuzzy part goes up towards your chin. Mr. Traverso, I'm sorry. The clerk, thank you. Sorry to interrupt. Mr. Traverso, okay, the testimony in this case will show that this is not about Francis Schaeffer Cox, the domestic terrorist, whose eye was on obtaining firearms and grenades to overthrow the government. This case is about the father of two, an avid outdoorsman who has climbed Denali 3 times and is a young, idealistic, intelligent man who is a mix of agitator, civil disobedient, and outspoken critic who championed the fight for civil liberties. He did not talk outside the protest signs. Hold on. All right, let's keep going. He did not walk outside with protest signs, camp outside government buildings, state or federal. He challenged head on the very institutions designed to govern us, the legislature, the judiciary, and the executive branch. He ran for political office and barely lost an election. He challenged the authority and jurisdiction of the Alaska court system by filing paperwork challenging the very legitimacy of the court system. He challenged the executive branch by forming 2 organizations. First, the Second Amendment Task Force to protect further restrictions and to change how 3 branches of government approach the right to bear arms. The evidence will show that in 2008 to 2009, there was concern the economy and the government that the economy would collapse and that the government would follow in its wake. Schaeffer encouraged a group of devout Christian men to come together to form a militia designed to protect its members and their families against mob and the government turned inside out that would be unable to protect them. It's called the Alaska Peacemakers Militia. Its motto, defend all, aggress none. It was described as the family militia. The solemn oath of each member was to protect the families in the event that things fell apart. You will hear evidence that the militia is not a revolutionary armed front, but an organization that tries to get government to listen, whether it be the judiciary, legislature, or executive branch. But Schaeffer didn't stop there. He also spearheaded the formation of an organization called the Liberty Bell, which monitors law enforcement with its own network so that a citizen can witness what takes place during an investigation. In one instance, he called out to assist the Alaska State Troopers in calming a potentially explosive situation. The troopers thanked him. Unfortunately, in March of 2010, he was called upon to help someone through Liberty Bell and in the process was arrested for not immediately disclosing that he had a gun in his possession. He chose that case to challenge all 3 branches of government. Approximately 3 to 4 weeks before his arrest for the weapons charge, late February of 2010, he was arrested for domestic assault. There will be testimony he and his wife Marty argued because they were taking a trip to see his mother-in-law, whom he had a strained relationship with. An argument ensued, a domestic dispute that ultimately led to a misdemeanor conviction. He was contacted by the Office of Child Protective Services much later to interview the 2-year-old son, and for the sake of simplicity, we will say OCS. OCS stands for Office of Child Protective Services. OCS states that this is standard protocol. OCS wanted to interview their 2-year-old son. OCS states that this is a standard protocol in domestic violence reports. Schaeffer didn't have any problem with that except he wanted to be present during the interview. He did not want the child removed from their presence. And when that occurred and they rejected that plan, then he did not cooperate. Schaeffer believed that this was wrong and he refused contact. The dispute ensues for several months with OCS and that would manifest into probing, surveillance, and trickery unforeseen by the family. The evidence in this case will show that Schaeffer began to draw attention of the federal government. He was invited to speak in a number of states, primarily in Montana. His speech in Hamilton in December of 2009 became known as the Solution Speech. It was a speech designed to raise awareness, not bloodshed. You will hear that Schaeffer colorfully describes that the country was headed to hell in a freight train, and eventually the government would collapse on its own. If that happened, chaos and or tyranny would ensue, but liberty would eventually win. In other speeches, he would analogize the government, that the government is, you don't need to gun down the beast. He describes that you need to let it fall or collapse on its own. As he describes it, you don't kill a wounded bear. As the government fails and it comes crashing down, the concept of law will be swept away with it. He spoke to people that they need to form a militia, to protect themselves, create a common law court that will address the concerns of the litigants, and organize networks like Liberty Bell to witness and monitor law enforcement. He didn't stop there either. He believed that our sovereignty as citizens is in peril, and believed that through the activity of the Alaska Assembly Post, they would help educate and organize others to understand what the Founding Fathers wanted. Yet youth has its excesses. No, not that he wanted to overthrow the government, but occasionally, yes, he would display a big mouth to draw and make a point. For example, while it might be morally right to drill a couple of rounds in the head of a judge, I do not feel it is necessary. Or, we have you outmanned and outgunned and could have you all dead in one night. Distasteful, but within his right to free speech. Schaeffer started to get reports that he was on a watch list, that people around Fairbanks contacted him and told him, clued him in, that federal officials had conveyed that he was dangerous, and airport police officers stopped him not because of an infraction, but to disclose that he was on some terrorist-like list. He heard through a source that federal agents were being sent from the lower 48 to execute him. He was getting national and statewide attention, and he felt his message was reaching a lot of people. He was embroiled in conflict with OCS, but he feared the federal government was out to silence him, and one day he went to Fort Wainwright, an army post, to seek help. He went there with his wife, Marty, and his son, Seth. They eventually left there, but soon were contacted by a soldier. They went to the post to seek help from the provost marshal. When they left, they were contacted by a soldier from the provost office that the federal officials had come to the post after them, that they wanted a audio of his request for assistance from the post. During that time, the soldier heard disturbing statements by the federal officials. They were talking that Schaeffer's dispute with OCS, which was ongoing from February through May to early June, would lead to confrontation with law enforcement, and they would take him out. The soldier contacted Schaeffer and warned him what had happened. This is early June of 2010. Many things unfold after this date. The government, through the use of an informant from Anchorage who sold munitions nicknamed Drop Zone Bill, came up to Fairbanks within weeks of the events at Fort Wainwright. He was tasked by the government to encourage Schaeffer to start an armed insurrection and to use Schaeffer's battle with OCS as a means to justify this. The informant called Schaeffer to come over to Pike's Landing in Fairbanks. Bill keeps asking Schaeffer's plan. What's your plan, Schaeffer? Come on, what's your plan? The informant said he had men mobilized to come there. He called them his assets, and that he had spent thousands of dollars to get this thing going. 2 men had accompanied Schaeffer. Schaeffer discouraged armed conflict and made it clear that the mission of the militia was to defend all, aggress none. The very next day, the Interior Alaska Conservative Coalition sponsored a fundraiser at Far North Tactical, also known as Blondie's, and Drop Zone Bill was there with a man named Aaron Bennett. Aaron Bennett is the owner of Far North Tactical. While this fundraiser was going on, Aaron Bennett and Bill Fulton were talking that Schaeffer had a plan. Schaeffer was not there at that point. During this fundraiser, they kept talking to people, and there was a number of people there. The plan would be executed on a Thursday, that it was coming up. Something's going to happen. Schaeffer's got a plan. Schaeffer went there with another member of the militia and was all armed at what was going on. Les Zerby, the man who accompanied Schaeffer, made it clear that the APM, the Alaska Peacemakers Militia, had no plan on conflict. Fulton reached for Zerby and had to be stopped by a number of people. Schaeffer became very concerned that either Fulton or Bennett or both were out of control. The government, a couple of months later in August of 2010, had another informant, J.R. Olson. They have him tasked to become a member of the Alaska Peacemakers militia at a barbecue at the residence of Coleman Barney. The APM had an open-door policy, and there was no reason to bar the admission of anyone. It is not a clandestine military organization, but from that day forward, through the direction of the government, J.R. Olson, who was called, as he was called, was to encourage the purchase of munitions, which were legal if purchased by someone who was licensed to do so. J.R.'s mission was to instigate the militia toward armed conflict. No matter how many times Schaeffer would say, "We're not about that," he would always say, "But what do you do if you get arrested? What do they do if they capture you?" Schaeffer would always try to calm him down. From August of 2010 to November of 2010, nothing had transpired. Yet the government continued to push Schaeffer's case involving the weapons charge. Continued to push for some sort of violence. Schaeffer's case involving the weapons charge that arose during a Liberty call became a center point of his effort to challenge the court system. The evidence will show that the government used that too, but to encourage conflict despite Schaeffer's emphatic, explicit instructions that was not the purpose of the militia. As a result of his decision not to show to his court hearing on the 14th on the weapons charge, a bench warrant for his arrest was issued. After meeting with militia members, he explained that he could not go to court because that would mean he would submit to their jurisdiction. Despite this, J.R. repeatedly tried to get Schaeffer to have an attack plan in play. The evidence will show he rejected this over and over again. Schaeffer stated that he wanted the militia to produce paperwork and to engage in non-violent shenanigans. The evidence will show that Schaeffer Cox was trying to leave the state soon after a meeting with some of the militia. The evidence will show that he was planning to leave the state with his family because he was scared that the provocation of Bennett and Fulton and the government's presence shortly after going to the post was a telltale sign that he needed to abandon for now his challenges to the court jurisdiction in the weapons charge and get his family out of Fairbanks as soon as he could. The informant offered the services of a tractor-trailer driver who was on his way up to Alaska from the lower 48. The informant was tasked to lie to him about the truck's need for repairs to keep Schaeffer here long enough for the government to try to sell firearms and grenade bodies of grenades to him. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I ask you to keep an open mind. The testimony in this case will show an incredible overreach by the government on March 10, 2011. The testimony will show that they manufactured, I should say concocted, a scheme to put inert grenades and a .22s with a silencer in the hands of Francis Schaeffer Cox and Coleman Barney. The informant is told to make sure you put it in their hands. Why did they have to do that? Again, I ask why. We will show you why they did what they did. As you listen to the testimony in this case, and the case concludes, remember this refrain: it is dangerous to be right when the government is wrong. Thank you. The court. Thank you, Mr. Traverso. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to ask to take our morning recess at this point. I want to remind you again, as I did yesterday, not to discuss the case with each other or anyone else, and follow all my instructions about recesses, and we'll reconvene in about 15 minutes. You may be excused. I think you go out to the jury room this way. The clerk, all rise. This matter is in recess for 15 minutes. The clerk, all rise. His Honor, the court, the United States District Court is again in session. The court, please be seated. Mr. Dooley, are you going to make an opening at this time? Mr. Dooley, yes, Your Honor. The court, all right. You're all set, I trust. Okay, bring the jury in, I guess. Mr. Dooley, Madam Clerk, can you hear me? The clerk, I can, thank you. The court, are you all wired up? Mr. Dooley, I need more wire. The court, modern technology. The court, okay, ladies and gentlemen, please be seated, ladies and gentlemen. I want to remind you not to take notes yet. We'll give you notepads after opening statements are completed when we start the evidence. Now, please give your attention to Mr. Dooley for Mr. Barney. Opening statement by Defendant Barney. Mr. Dooley, ladies and gentlemen, the men who formed the Alaska Peacemaker Militia were, I believe, almost all Christians, devout Christians, and of the type that believe the end of the world is near, as in the book of Revelations. In fact, Coleman Barney's particular sect of Christianity has within it, he is a Mormon, the name Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. That's a fundamental core belief with them, and Mormons prepare for that day. They have various rules about storing food for a year, 2 years, and the like, to make sure they can care for their own family and not be a burden on others, and to care for others. Coleman is active in that church. It's a central part of his life. It's probably equal to that of his family. He's married to Rachel, and he has 5 children. Rachel and Coleman own Mammoth Electric Incorporated. It's a very successful electrical contracting company. He is a gun enthusiast and an advocate of the Second Amendment. He joined the Second Amendment Task Force, which has actually gotten legislation passed. They give speeches. They try to influence legislation. In the course of that, he met Schaeffer Cox. Schaeffer Cox has, I think, bizarre ideas. But what I think doesn't matter. What really mattered was what the U.S. government classifies anybody who believes in sovereign citizenship as domestic terrorists. Be on the lookouts. BOLOs, they are called. Were sent out about Schaeffer Cox. They started an investigation into Schaeffer Cox and the people around the militia, and I'm going to suggest the evidence is going to show that they were needing to find terrorists. Now, Coleman Barney faces some particular charges, not as many as Schaeffer Cox. One of the charges he is faced with is conspiracy to possess grenades, and I should stop for a moment and say a grenade is illegal. A grenade shell is perfectly legal. You can buy them at Army-Navy stores. They're empty. They're usually a manufacturer's reject for some reason, and they have holes at the bottom. You're going to see pictures of an array of this collection of grenade shells. They are legal. You can find them in places where they say, if you're in a hurry, take a number. The joke is you pull on the grenade shell. Coleman Barney, you'll never hear him say, I want a hand grenade, a real one, ever in any of this. Now, he's been accused of participating in a conversation. We call it the Easter Cabins conversation on March 1st of 2011. At that conversation, Gerald Olson and Schaeffer Cox are talking about grenades and other things. Coleman Barney, we call them the Easter Cabins. He owns 5 cabins out there. He and his co-workers were working on the cabins. Coleman Barney occasionally shows up in this conversation. Hello, how are you? A longer conversation where he's taking a break, not a coffee break because he's a Mormon, but he's taking a break. He talks to them a while. Then he's back up there working, and on the tape, you're going to hear sawing and hammering because Coleman Barney didn't have time to shoot the breeze with J.R. Olson and Schaeffer Cox. That seems to be the connection to the grenades, that he wants to have a grenade. You will not hear that anywhere where he is saying that. You'll hear him there's some jokes about grenades. It's hard to believe there's jokes about grenades, but they had apparently 8 grenades were stolen from Fort Wainwright by somebody, and the rumor had it that the Peacemakers militia had the 8 grenades. They didn't. You won't see any evidence of that, but you'll hear jokes about it. Now we can do anything. We can get free grenades at Fort Wainwright, that sort of thing. But they didn't have them. He is also charged with a number of offenses related to what is in his trailer. Let me explain that. He had one of those big white utility trailers you see all the time, in which he kept shells with his electrical gear, all of his electrical stuff, and he and his crew would use on jobs. At one point, Schaeffer Cox moved his material household goods into the trailer in preparation for his trip to the States when he was trying to leave Alaska and avoid all the trouble that he was hearing about. The government's going to have to prove, and I don't think they can, that Coleman Barney exercised dominion and control over the items in the trailer. Coleman Barney wasn't even aware of some of the items. You'll see photographs in which there's huge saran wrap you can buy for moving bubble wrap around things, stuff in boxes. It wasn't Coleman Barney's, and he simply had it in his trailer. Simply having it in his trailer will not be enough to charge him with possession of those things. But here's another thing. The things in the trailer that he's concerned about were grenade shells, some liquid metallic welding material called JB Weld. I imagine everybody has something like it somewhere in the toolbox. And some unique brand of gunpowder for reloading 9mm pistol cartridges, and it had some indiscernible in it. And the government's theory is that we have a destructive device. They're going to put some experts on to argue that, well, if you put this with this, and you put this in there, and you do a couple of other things, we have a dangerous destructive device. We're going to be chatting with their experts about that. I think that's a leap, but you're going to make that decision. The other thing he's charged with is a conspiracy to possess an illegal silencer. An odd thing, silencers are legal. you can own one. You have to buy one from a Class 3 dealer. You have to fill out paperwork and wait for the ATF to give you approval. They check your criminal history and the like, and you pay a $200 fee, a tax stamp, they call it. Well, Coleman Barney has, in fact, I don't think any of these men have any criminal history. Coleman Barney has 2 speeding tickets from teenage years, and he would get approval if he had applied, filled out the paperwork. The $200 isn't a problem. To his surprise, he discovered, I pointed it out, that his company grosses over $1 million a year. He can afford the $200. He doesn't have to buy an illicit or illegal silencer. Mr. Dooley, you will learn that you can see them at gun fairs, gun shows. There always seem to be a table with silencers, and you can buy them over the internet. You have to go through the same procedures, and many local stores have them. So he thought it'd be cool to have one, but he wanted a legal one. He didn't want an illegal one. He doesn't need it off the books. He's also charged with conspiracy to kill or murder federal officials. And the key word there is murder. Murder is a special kind of killing, and you will discover that not all killing are murder and not all killings are wrong. Ms. Lamoureux, Your Honor, I apologize, but this seems to be getting into the area of argument as opposed to opening statement. Overruled, Mr. Dooley. And an issue will be what their intent was with respect to federal officials or anybody else they sent up. You're going to hear about this happening at a place called KJNP Radio. You already heard from Mr. Traverso about an Army soldier, frankly a military policeman, who had warned Schaeffer Cox of his concerns about the federal officials because they want to shut him up. But they also had other concerns. You may think that it doesn't happen, but it does. In 1992, federal agents attacked and killed people in a family without warning them, didn't tell them they were federal agents, didn't ask them to come out and be arrested. They sent in sniper teams. And this is a fairly famous incident, at least among militia members. It's called Ruby Ridge. And in that case, a man wanted for failure to appear in a court hearing was targeted by them because he's a terrorist. And the sniper killed the 14-year-old son and the mother who was holding a baby and almost killed the father and an older boy who was there. Now, this is common knowledge amongst the militia. Ms. Lamoureux, objection, Your Honor. The court, the objection is sustained. Counsel, go on to something else. Mr. Dooley, and it's in their state of mind. So when they go out there, they are going to introduce into evidence something called a whiteboard in which they've drawn up what it is they're going to do to protect Schaeffer Cox. If this, do this. If this, do that. If they didn't put it in evidence, we wouldn't. If they didn't put it in the evidence, we would, because it's evidence they did not have the mental framework to carry out murder, but to defend. We're going to hear from Gerald R. Olson. They're also charged with having 8 fully functional hand grenades. That is the only evidence you're going to hear from that comes from J.R. Olson. We're going to hear from him, and we're going to chat with him about his past. I'll just leave that there. 37mm launchers, they are perfectly legal. They don't have registration numbers on them. Anybody can buy them. A convicted felon can buy them. They're available in stores, particularly marine stores, and over the internet. They are used for firing flares, tear gas, and various other projectiles. They are charged, in this case, with having a destructive device because it had a hornet's nest rubber pellet canister inside it. But the key issue is whether the launcher itself was originally designed or redesigned for use as a weapon. The hornet's nests are available in various varieties over the internet or in stores, and in fact, the 4 hornet's nests that are involved in this case came from a store called Far North Tactical, also called Blondie's, owned by a man named Aaron Bennett. Mr. Bennett recalls selling them. Mr. Cox recalls Mr. Bennett giving them to him because Mr. Cox had bought a whole bunch of camping equipment and tents, and in return for this huge purchase, he threw in the hornet's nest. Either way, they came from Aaron Bennett's store. Coleman Barney is accused of having brought with him $5,000 in cash to this legal weapons purchase on March the 10th. Now, our position is that we're going over to see this truck driver. They call him Han Solo, the Star Trek guy. They didn't want to use a real name, of course. There was no such truck driver. But the idea was, JR said, jump in my truck and we'll go over to see if Schaeffer Cox's stuff will fit inside the truck that's supposed to go south with Schaeffer Cox and his stuff. So why did Barney have $5,000 on him? The day before, he wrote a paycheck to one of his workers about $4,600. He gets home and tells Rachel, hey, I wrote a check to Adam for $4,600. Rachel, I understand this myself. But Rachel basically says, Coleman, I've been writing checks all day, and that's going to bounce. They call Adam and ask him to hold off depositing the check until they can get more money into the account. And of course, as part of his storage, he's got $5,000 in cash. I think he had 3 groups of that. He put $5,000 in, he goes to the bank, and he's going to deposit it. He parked in the bank parking lot when JR says, come on over, we're going to check on whether Han Solo can carry all of Schaeffer's stuff. There is paperwork on this. We have deposits. The very first phone call Coleman had with his wife Rachel from the jail was, can we get Adam taken care of? Make sure he knows that the $5,000 never got deposited. We have him talking to the Bureau and state personnel in an interview after he's arrested saying, hey, I've got to take care of my guys and I've got to get them paid. The money that was on him was money that was supposed to go into the bank and was not money for the buying illegal weapons. As far as they knew, the business of silencers and grenades that J.R. Olson was going to hand to them, they didn't know about that. They thought they were going over to see this Han Solo, the truck driver. At the conclusion of this case, I think that especially with regard to Coleman Barney, you will discover that the government is overreaching in the charges they've levied against him. Thank you. The court, thank you, Mr. Dooley. Miss Hayden? The clerk, Judge, I have a coat that a jury requested. Can I pass it to her? The court, yeah. You can take a break in place if you want again, folks, while they get set up. The court, all right. You said, Miss Hayden? Miss Hayden, thank you, Your Honor. The court, all right, ladies and gentlemen. Please now give your attention to Miss Hayden, who represents Mr. Vernon. Opening statement by Defendant Vernon. Miss Hayden, Your Honor, opposing counsel, ladies and gentlemen, my name is M.J. Hayden, and I represent Lonnie Vernon. Lonnie Vernon. Now, I've been sitting here with all of you all for the past couple of hours, and what I hear is Schaeffer Cox, Schaeffer Cox, Schaeffer Cox. Maybe a little bit of Coleman Barney, but Schaeffer Cox. I've heard very little about Lonnie Vernon. We might all be saying, well, why is Lonnie Vernon here? Well, I would submit that Lonnie Vernon is here because he has very poor taste in the people that he associates with, and he's gotten caught up in this, and basically he's bycatch. This case is about Schaeffer Cox and Coleman Barney. Now, let me just tell you a little bit about Lonnie. Lonnie's rough around the edges. Lonnie's a hard-working truck driver, and he tends to be a little bit of a loudmouth. He's a blowhard. He tends to exaggerate, and you're going to hear tapes of him. But when you look at the whole situation, I mean, obviously you can tell Mr. Vernon is quite older than these 2 other gentlemen. He didn't quite fit in with the younger folks. He wanted to. He wanted people to like him, and he wanted people to pay attention to him, but obviously he just couldn't speak as eloquent as Mr. Cox. Was not a successful business person like Mr. Barney, so in order to get attention, he runs his mouth. He says extreme things. He exaggerates, he embellishes, and you're going to hear this. When I come from, and you might have another word for it, but we call it fishtails. Well, we all know somebody, if you tell them something, they go to one-up you basically. You know, if you come back from a fishing trip and you say, I caught a fish this big, well, if we're talking to Lonnie Vernon would say, well, I caught one this big. I caught this using a stick, a piece of string, and an indiscernible. That's just the way he is. He has to press it to the limit, to the extreme, so that you could get to the attention because he's not an eloquent speaker. He's not very well educated. He's not a professional businessman, and he's not a professional speech maker. So when we look at what Lonnie Vernon is charged with, he's charged with conspiracy, 2 conspiracies. One to possess silencers and destructive devices, and one to murder government officers, federal government officers, and employees. Now, when we get into this case, and before you go out to deliberate, the judge is going to explain to you what conspiracy is and what conspiracy is not. To put it roughly, conspiracy is an agreement between one or more individuals. It cannot be an agreement with the government or the government informant. It has to be an agreement with somebody outside of the government. Now, here, there was no agreement. No agreement between Lonnie Vernon and Mr. Cox or Mr. Barney to possess destructive devices or to possess silencers. There was no agreement between Lonnie Vernon, Mr. Cox, or Mr. Barney to murder anyone. You're going to hear a lot of tapes, a lot of recordings. They are meetings, they call them command staff meetings of the Peacemaker militia. Lonnie Vernon was not part of the command staff. You'll hear testimony that was not part of the command staff. The most important meetings for Mr. Cox and Mr. Vernon, Mr. Barney, and the others are making these plans. Lonnie Vernon wasn't even there. There are going to be very few recordings between Lonnie Vernon and these 2 men, and there are certainly not going to be any recordings of an agreement. Lonnie Vernon was just a warm body in Mr. Cox's organization, somebody that Mr. Cox could call on when he needed somebody to show up and nobody else was available. But he was not part of the upper echelon. He was not part of the command staff. Now, you've heard a lot of stuff this morning, a lot of pieces of evidence. And I believe the government told you they have some. I don't know, 700, 800, 900 exhibits, and they're going to show you. And I believe we're all in agreement, and we would ask you to keep an open mind when you're looking at these pieces of evidence. The trials are a little bit funny because if we could all just come in and tell our stories and then ask you to rule, that'd be one thing. But the rules of evidence require that little bitty pieces of evidence come in, and you may be sitting there going, that has no meaning. Why do they put this piece of evidence in? What's the relevance of that? How does that connect to this piece? But in the end, each little piece will come back. We'll all get a chance to talk to you again, and we'll kind of hopefully connect those little pieces for you. Some people say there's two sides to every story. Well, in trial, there could be three sides or four sides to every story. And we're all going to come back and tell you what we believe the evidence will show. And when I come back and speak with you again, I'm going to tell you why all these 6, 7, 8, 900 pieces of evidence do not convict Lonnie Vernon. Because there was no agreement. There was no conspiracy between Lonnie Vernon and these two men. I appreciate your time. Thank you. The court, thank you, Ms. Hayden. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to need to take a little time to get ready for presentation of evidence. I think I'll just give you a break. There's no need for you to sit there here while we do this. It'll take 10 minutes or so take a break and we'll get back to you and start the evidence in a few minutes. Side conversing, jury out at 10:39 a.m. The court, okay, I'll give you some time to get your kit together. Please be seated. I had a couple of things. Do you all get, I never heard the last of the pen escape. Did you all get set up? We have better pens. Okay, all right, thank you. And do you want to deal with that stipulation now? I don't know when that's coming up. Ms. Lamoureux, we can wait, Your Honor. The court, all right. And is there anything else we need to do preliminary to? Mr. Scrocky, yes, sir, Your Honor. I sent the witness list to the defense last night. We have a lot of photographs. In lieu of bringing every piece of evidence that was seized in the various residences and the trailers, we have a lot of pictures. My intention was, and I had expressed to the court and to counsel a while back, was to admit photos per witness with respect to the ones they're going to be testifying to. And is that appropriate? Do you approve of that process? Is this going to be all right with you? Side conversing. Mr. Scrocky, as opposed to going one by one and move the court, well, I would hope you don't have to go one by one. Mr. Scrocky, okay, that's our intention. The court, yeah, but whether I approve depends on whether there are objections from the defense that are valid. I don't know what, Mr. Scrocky, okay. The court, objections may come up. Mr. Scrocky, we'll take it as it comes in, but that's the court, okay. Mr. Scrocky, that's our plan. The court, yeah, all right. Mr. Scrocky, thank you. The court, how much time do you need now? Side conversing. Mr. Scrocky, 15 minutes, please. That's 5 minutes to 9. No, to 11. Wait a minute, I can't read the clock. It'd be 5 to 11. 5 minutes to the hour. All right. Thank you. The court, hopefully that will make things go smoothly, so we'll take a break. The clerk, all rise. The matter is in recess for 15 minutes. Recess 10:41 until 10:58 a.m. Jury out. All rise. His Honor, the court, the United States District Court is in session. The court, please be seated. In light of indication to the jury that they should tell us about anything that comes up, juror number 2 named, juror number 2 wants to inform the court, I am also a Mormon at the same church as defendant Barney. Side conversing. The court, I don't know, we have two religions now mentioned, general Christianity and Mormonism. I expect a number of jurors belong to the other named religion as well. Mr. Scrocky, our position is I think we need to inquire of her outside the presence of the other jurors about any kind of relationship or contact and what it might impact on her. Well, Mr. Scrocky, we didn't know about that yesterday. The court, pardon. Certainly we didn't know about that yesterday. No, it's not a question I would ordinarily ask of jurors, and I suppose that is appropriate to make the inquiry. I think to expedite things, I'll do it at lunch when we'll excuse the rest of the jurors, and I'll ask her to stay for a minute and make that inquiry. Any objection to that? Mr. Scrocky, no. The court, are you ready to proceed? Mr. Scrocky, we are. The court, do you have a witness? Are you kidding me? I mean, just because a jury member is a Mormon? Okay, anyway. We are. Do you have a witness? Mr. Scrocky, we do. One more quick question, Judge. Given our space confines, is it all right if the case agent presents the evidence to the witness as opposed to me making the run back and forth? I can do it if you wish. If it doesn't matter to you, then we're fine having the case agent present. The court, I'd ask if defense counsel has any objection. Mr. Dooley, no. I don't have any objection from Mr. Traverso. Ms. Hayden, no, sir. The court, that's fine. Mr. Scrocky, great, thank you. The court, whatever is most efficient. Mr. Scrocky, thank you, sir. The court, all right. And if you'll bring the jury in, please. Now, have you put their notebooks over there, Denali? The clerk, yes, I did. Okay, and pens? Yes, I did. All right. Jury in at 11:01 a.m. The court, okay, ladies and gentlemen, the first thing I want you to do is write your names on the cover of those notebooks so we're sure that you each get your own notebook back and keep track of it. And also on your copy of the preliminary jury instructions, you might write your own name as well so that those are identified as your personal work copies of those instructions. If any of you need help with spelling, I think we can supply that. Okay, you may now take notes if you wish. As I indicated, we will start with the plaintiff's presentation of evidence. You may call your first witness, Mr. Scrocky. Mr. Scrocky, thank you, Your Honor. We would call Special Agent Mike Thorson to the stand, please. The clerk, please stand in the witness box to be sworn. You may call your next witness. We call Alex Doran. Mr. Scrocky, yes, we call Alex Doran. Ms. Hayden, Your Honor, may I retrieve the document that I was using with Special Agent Thorson? The court, yes, you can. It's interesting that Special Agent Mike Thorson, none of his stuff was logged in the trial transcripts. They just skipped his portion when he testified. They have as a witness some person named Alex Doran. The court, yes, you can. Ms. Hayden, thank you. Mr. Scrocky, a long walk. The court, maybe Mr. Sutherland will. Mr. Scrocky, we can do that. The court, Agent Sutherland will get it. Ms. Hayden, thank you. The clerk, sir, please stand in the witness box to be sworn. The court, let me ask you just to face out toward the courtroom. Raise your right hand to be sworn. Russell Duran, plaintiff's witness, sworn. The witness I do. The court, please be seated. Speak right into the mic if you will, please. Direct examination by Mr. Scrocky. Question, Mr. Duran, who do you work for, sir? Answer, the FBI. Question, and your present duty station? The court, wait a minute. Name and spelling of name, please. Always with Mr. Scrocky. Mr. Apologies. The court, with every witness, yeah. By Mr. Scrocky. Question, if you could state your name into the record and spell it for us, please. Answer, Russell Alexander Doran. Russell, R-U-S-S-E-L-L, Doran, D-O-R-A-N. Question, Agent Doran, do you work for the FBI? Answer, yes, I do. Question, and your present assignment is where? Answer, Anchorage. Question, and what do you do for the FBI? Answer, I work in the National Security Squad. Question, okay, how long have you been doing that? Answer, 2 years and 3 months. Question, prior to your employee with the FBI, what did you do? Answer, I worked as an accountant. I was a CPA. Question, okay, looking for more excitement, were you? Answer, yes, I was. Okay, if I could turn your attention, Agent Duran, to March the 10th of 2011. Answer, yes. Question, were you doing something for the FBI that day in terms of an investigation? Answer, yes, I was. I was a member of the SWAT team assigned to conduct an arrest, or actually multiple arrests. Question, okay, you were a member of a SWAT team for Anchorage office? Answer, am I? Yes, I am a member. Question, and with respect to the March 10th, 2011, you participated in some arrests? Answer, yes. Question, do you recall the first set of arrests you participated in? Answer, yes, I do. Question, what would that have been with? Answer, the first arrests were Lonnie and Karen Vernon. Question, okay, do you have occasion to see them taken into custody? Answer, I did. Question, all right, do you participate in the second arrest that day? Answer, I did. Okay. Question, okay, about how much time transpired between the first and the second? Answer, it was a few hours if I remember. Question, and the arrest was concerning which individuals? Answer, that was Schaeffer, Cox, and Coleman Barney. Question, okay, and with respect to that arrest, where was your position? What were you supposed to be doing with that? Answer, for both arrests I was stationed in another vehicle, a Suburban positioned out of sight. Another Agent Clark was the driver and I was the passenger in that vehicle, and our assignment was basically, when given the order to execute, we would move into position and block the vehicle in place so they couldn't move. Question, okay, is that what ultimately happened? Answer, yes. Okay. Question, okay, and at some point did you observe the arrest of Mr. Cox and Mr. Barney? Answer, I did. Question, do you make the arrest yourself? Answer, well, I mean, it depends on what you consider making the arrest. We're all there. I believe I did not physically put the handcuffs on them, but we were there and observed their arrest. The arrest took place, and then I believe another agent, Officer McCune, actually, and I assisted in arresting Schaeffer Cox, if that's what you specifically mean by arresting. Question, all right. So you have a number of agents working or participating with respect to one or two individuals? Answer, yes. Our SWAT team consists of 12 members, I think, or roughly that day. I can't remember exactly who all was there, but we have a 12-member team, and I believe everybody was there, and everybody participates in the arrest event. Question, okay, after the arrest of Mr. Cox and Mr. Barney, did you have an occasion to participate in some aspect of the investigation with respect to the sources or the informant's vehicle? Answer, yes, we... Question, okay, let me stop you there real quick. Answer, okay, Mr. Scrocky, could you give me 74, please, 7-4? Question, Agent Sutherland's presenting you Exhibit 74, which has been admitted into evidence. Answer, okay. Question, could you look inside the box for me, Agent Duran? Answer, do you want me to pull them out? Question, sure. One is fine for right now. Do they look familiar to you? Answer, yes, it does. Question, and how, in what way? Answer, this was one of the canisters that contains one of the inert grenades that the source was selling to Schaeffer Cox and Coleman Barney on that morning. Plaintiff's Exhibit 74 identified, previously admitted. Question, okay, and with respect to what you testified to with the informant's vehicle, how did that come into play and come to your attention? Answer, at some point after both men were taken into custody, and I can't remember exactly, but somebody made the comment that we were missing one of the grenades that weren't in the canisters that we know, we had taken off the truck at that time. So, question, let me stop you there. Do you mean the green canister there? Answer, yes. Question, okay, so you had an empty canister, and so what did you do? Answer, everybody was like, all right, start looking around the truck or in the truck to try to locate the grenade. We had already searched the individual, so we knew the grenade was not on them physically, so I looked in the truck and ultimately found this one kind of lodged back underneath the front passenger side seat, side conversing. Question, is there whoops, Mr. Scrocky, I need a book, please. If you could deliver the book to Agent Duran. Thank you, Agent Sutherland. Question, Agent Duran, if I could have you just turn to Exhibit 111 and just take a look at it for me before going into context. Answer, okay, 111, I'm sorry, what did you want me to look at? Question, just take a look at it for me for a second. Answer, okay, side conversing. Question, do you recognize what's depicted in Exhibit 111? Answer, yes, it's a picture of the front of the vehicle, the front of the cab. Plaintiff's Exhibit 111 identifies. Question, okay, the exterior, interior? Answer, it's the interior. It's the driver's seat and the passenger seat of the vehicle. Question, okay, that looks familiar to you from your participation in the arrest that day. Answer, yes, it does. Question, okay, what would that assist you in your testimony with respect to the grenade that you were looking for? Answer, yeah, I could probably use it, yeah. Question, okay, Mr. Scrocky, offer Exhibit 111. Mr. Dooley, no objection. Mr. Traverso, no objection. Ms. Hayden, no objection. The court, it may be admitted. Plaintiff's Exhibit 111 admitted. Mr. Scrocky, if we could have the lights, Madam Clerk, by Mr. Scrocky. Agent Duran, is this Exhibit 111? Answer, yes. Question, could you tell us where you located the grenade you were looking for? Answer, it was in, like I said, the front passenger vehicle underneath the seat. So, do you have I don't have a mouse or anything, do I? Question, how about if I do this? Does this help? Answer, that's the front passenger seat and it would be underneath the seat, good enough away to where it was pretty much parallel with the backrest of the seat. Question, like that, or is it fair to say? Answer, yes. Question, okay, so, and when you found, answer, it was, question, yes. Answer, I was going to say it was far enough back to where you couldn't see it from just glancing in the vehicle. I had to actually physically lean over and look underneath the seat. I believe it had already been kind of passed over by one agent that was kind of just looking around, and then I physically had to, like I said, lean over and really look underneath the seat to find it. Question, was the passenger door open when you did that? Answer, yes, it was already open. Question, so if you walk up to the door and it's open, you're going like this? Answer, yes, that's correct. Question, okay, so, but you have to tell them. Answer, yes, I physically had to lean over and look underneath the seat to where, it wasn't, if you can picture a pickup truck, it's kind of already at waist level. It's a fairly high truck, and we had to lean over and, really look underneath the front seat. Question, okay. Mr. Scrocky, that's all I have for Agent Duran. You can raise the lights, Madam Clerk. Thank you. Mr. Traverso, thank you, Your Honor. Cross-examination by Mr. Traverso. Question, good afternoon, Agent Duran. Good afternoon. Answer, Question, my name is Nelson Traverso. I represent Schaeffer Cox. Answer, okay. Question, could you tell us what an inert grenade is? Answer, it's just one that has been disabled by our explosives unit so that it cannot explode. If somebody pulled the pin and tried to throw it, it wouldn't blow up. Question, okay. Duran Cross. Mr. Traverso, I have no further questions. Thank you. By Mr. Dooley. Question, Agent Duran, Tim Dooley for Coleman Barney. Did you observe Schaeffer Cox and Coleman Barney at the time of the arrest? Answer, yes, I did. Question, did they put their hands up? Answer, if I remember correctly, yes, they. Question, right. Answer, they exited the vehicle when they were told. Question, they were cooperative? A, for the most part, yes. Question, no cussing at you, no shouting, no wrestling? A, no, nobody put up a fight. Question, didn't throw any of these grenades at you? Answer, no. Question, didn't pull their guns out and shoot at you? No. Answer, no. Question, okay. Mr. Dooley, thank you. Miss Hayden, I have no questions. The court, all right, Mr. Scrocky. Mr. Scrocky, nothing further. McCune direct. The court, you may be excused, Agent Duran. Witness excused. The witness, what do you want me to do with the grenades? The court, Agent Sutherland will pick them up. Side conversing. This portion not requested. Miss Lamoureux, the United States calls Special Agent Austin McCune. The court, if you'll come up to the jury box, please. I mean the witness box. If you'll stand and raise your right hand and face the courtroom, please. Austin McCune, plaintiff's witness sworn. The witness, yes, I do. The court, thank you. Please be seated. Direct examination by Miss Lamoureux. Question, good afternoon. Answer, good afternoon. Question, could you please state for your name the record and spell your last name? Yes, it's Austin McCune, M-C-K-U-N-E. Question, where do you work? Answer, for the FBI here in Anchorage. Question, and how long have you worked for the FBI? Answer, almost 3.5 years. Question, what did you do prior to joining the FBI? Answer, prior to joining the FBI, I was an engineer. Question, what kind of engineer? Answer, an aerial space engineer at Boeing. The court, pull that up and speak right into it. Good. Question, what are your current roles and duties, responsibilities with the FBI? Answer, I currently work at a variety of white-collar crime violations, including public corruption, fraud, civil rights, those types of things. Question, turning now to March 10, 2011, what were you tasked to do on that date? Answer, I was part of an FBI SWAT team that was involved in the arrest of a number of subjects in Fairbanks, up in Fairbanks. Question, and which subjects were those? Answer, Mr. Schaeffer Cox, Mr. and Miss Vernon, and Mr. Barney. Question, turning your attention to the arrest of Schaeffer Cox and Coleman Barney, what was your role regarding that arrest? Answer, in that arrest I actually arrested Mr. Cox. He was in the rear seat of the truck at that point. I removed him from the vehicle, placed him on the ground prone, cuffed him, and removed a handgun from his pocket. Question, how did you know that he had a handgun in his pocket? Answer, once he was prone on the ground and handcuffed, I believe that's when he actually told me that he had a firearm on him, and I asked him where, and he said it was in his pocket. Question, I want to show you that we have marked for ID Exhibit 77 together with Exhibit 78, side conversing. Miss Lamoureux, together 77 and 78, thank you. Nice timing, Agent Sutherland. Question, please go ahead and examine those items. Please don't discuss them yet until you've reviewed them. Answer, okay. Question, did you recognize those items? Answer, yes, I do. Question, and you can generally describe what they are? Answer, it appears to be the Glock handgun that I seized from Mr. Cox's pocket, as well as the magazine for presumably that handgun. Plaintiffs Exhibit 77 and 78 identified. Miss Lamoureux, Your Honor, at this time I would like to offer Exhibit 77 and 78. Mr. Traverso, no objection. Dooley, no objection. Hayden, no objection. The court, they may be admitted 77 and 78 in evidence. Plaintiffs Exhibit 77 and 78 admitted by Miss Lamoureux. Question, Agent McCune, could you please hold up Exhibit 77 for the jury? Answer, would you like me to take it out of the bag? Question, please. And can you describe what it is? Answer, it's a Glock Model 30-45 auto caliber pistol. Question, thank you. Can you please do the same with Exhibit 78? Show the jury, and can you please describe what it is? Answer, yes, it appears to be a magazine for that gun. It looks like it has 10 rounds of ammunition in it, 45 caliber. Question, do you take any other items off Schaeffer Cox's person that day? Answer, he had a cell phone in his pocket and wearing a body armor. Question, okay, I'd like to show you now what we have marked for identification as Exhibit 76, and again, if you could please review those items before showing them. Answer, okay. Question, do you recognize that item? Answer, yes. Question, can you describe what it is? Answer, it's a white bullet-resistant vest, body armor. Plaintiff's Exhibit 76 identified. Question, is that what Schaeffer Cox was wearing? Answer, it looks like it. Mr. Lamoureux, I'd offer into evidence Exhibit 76, Traverso Dooley, no objection. The court, 76 may be admitted. Plaintiff's Exhibit 76 admitted by Ms. Lamoureux. Question, if you could please take the item out of the bag now, Agent McCune, show that to the jury, please. Can you describe what it is? Yes. It's it's a soft body armor with a ballistic plate in the chest section. Question, you're indicating somewhere in the middle of the vest there. Is that right? Answer, correct. Here in the middle of the front cover of the chest. Question, can you actually show the jury what the plate looks like? Thank you. And that's what Schaeffer Cox was wearing that day. Answer, yes. Question, and you also mentioned that he has had a cell phone, and is that right? Answer, yes, he did. Question, I'd like to show you what we've marked for identification as Exhibit 75. Do you recognize that item? Answer, yes. Question, can you generally describe it? Answer, yes. It's a silver and black Samsung cell phone with a piece of tape covering a small piece of the notebook paper with a telephone number on the back. Plaintiff's Exhibit 75 identified. Question, is that the phone that you took from Schaeffer Cox on March 10th? Answer, yes. Ms. Lamoureux, I'd like to offer into evidence Exhibit 75, Traverso Dooley Hayden, no objection. It may be admitted by Ms. Lamoureux, Exhibit 75. Question, if you could please show the item to the jury, can you describe what's written on the back of the phone there? Answer, yes, it says red, which is underlined in pinkish red ink, and it has telephone number 907-268-924, 9251, side conversing. Ms. Lamoureux, I have no other questions for this witness at this time. Mr. Traverso, thank you. Cross-examination by Mr. Traverso. Question, was the chamber empty? Answer, yes. Mr. Traverso, thank you. No further questions. Mr. Dooley, no further questions. Ms. Hayden, no questions. The court, all right. Ms. Lamoureux, no questions, Your Honor. You may be excused. Thank you. The witness, thank you. Ms. Lamoureux, at this time, the government calls Special Agent Betsy Bartko. Ms. Hayden, Your Honor, excuse me, Your Honor. There's something that I would like to take up before the government calls Agent Bartko. The court, is it necessary? Ms. Hayden, yes. The court, is it necessary to call her next? Side conversing. Ms. Lamoureux, our witness after following Agent Bartko is going to be a very lengthy witness. We would take a moment to confer with Lonnie Vernon's counsel. The court, go ahead. Ms. Lamoureux, thank you. Pause, side conversing. The court, did you resolve whatever it was or do we need to do? We can go ahead. Ms. Lamoureux, if I could have one moment, Your Honor, I believe that we did. The court, okay. Side conversing. Ms. Lamoureux, we're fine, Your Honor. The court, okay, all right, Ms. Hayden. Ms. Hayden, just a moment, Your Honor. The clerk, Judge, can you not put those right next to the microphone? The court, pardon. The clerk, your headset, can you keep that away from the microphone? I'm getting a squeal. Thank you. The court, sorry. I'm going deaf, folks. I've got hearing aids and they don't quite do it, so I use the cheater quite a bit here. It's very helpful to me. Ms. Hayden, I'm ready to go forward, Your Honor. The court, pardon me. Ms. Hayden, I'm ready to go forward. This portion not requested. The court, you may call your next witness. Okay, so when they called, what was that, Special Agent Betsy Bartko? Oh my goodness. Looks like they just bleeped that whole thing out. None of that went into the trial transcripts. The court, you may call your next witness. Mr. Scrocky, Your Honor, we call Jolene Golden to the stand. Could we have about 5 minutes to orient some exhibits if we could? The court, well, I bet the jury would like about 5 minutes to walk around. You may be excused, and just for about 5 minutes, a real short break. The clerk, all rise as matter stands in brief recess. Recess from 4:07 to 4:17, jury out. The clerk, all rise. His Honor, this United States is in session. The court, please be seated. Are we all set? Mr. Scrocky, thank you for the time. The court, okay, bring in the jury and we'll bring in the witness. Side conversing. The court, all right, please be seated. You may call your witness. Mr. Scrocky, we call Special Agent Jolene Golden to the stand. The court, if you'll stand in the witness box there, Agent Golden, and raise your right hand, please face the court. Do you? That's the court. Jolene Golden, plaintiff's witness. The witness, yes, I do. The court, thank you. Please be seated. Direct examination by Mr. Scrocky. Question, good afternoon. Answer, good afternoon. Question, if you could give us your full name and spell your last name for the record. Answer, sure. Jolene Golden, G-O-E-D-E-N. Okay, Miss Golden, do you work for the FBI? Answer, I do. How long have you worked for the FBI? Answer, just over 8 years. Question, in what capacity have you worked for the FBI and what is your present assignments with the Bureau? Answer, I'm an agent with the FBI and I'm currently assigned to work on a criminal squad, which means the type of investigations that I primarily work are child exploitation, human trafficking, and I also work some homicide cases as well. Question, and with respect to Anchorage office, how long have you been in Alaska? Answer, 8 years. Question, 8 years in Anchorage office? Answer, yes, I have. Okay, question, if I could turn your question to March 10th of 2011, answer, yes. Question, were you in Fairbanks on the day doing some work for the FBI? Answer, I was. Question, in what capacity? Answer, I'm a member of the evidence response team, and that day I was there to conduct duties that are part of my responsibilities as an evidence response team member. Question, okay, did you have occasion to work with respect to search warrants, or at least on the 10th search warrant on the 10th of March? Answer, yes. Question, and you mentioned you're on the ER evidence response team. Could you describe to the jury what that means? Answer, The evidence response team, or ERT, is essentially our search team, and we receive every field office in the FBI has at least one evidence response team, and usually they consist of about 8 members per team, and we receive specialized training in evidence collection, preservation of evidence, those types of matters. So it's specific training. It's a collateral duty. It's not part of being an agent necessarily. It's specialized training for evidence collection. Question, okay, with respect to, again, on March 10th of 2011, did you have an occasion to search a particular residence? Answer, I did. Question, whose residence was that? Answer, that was the residence of Schaeffer Cox. Question, were you doing that as part of an FBI investigation, or were you on other investigation, or were there other investigators there with you? Answer, I was at the residence as part of an FBI investigation. But we also had an Alaska State Trooper at the residence. Question, and prior to searching Mr. Cox's residence, did you yourself and the federal team members review something? Answer, we did. Question, what was that? Answer, we reviewed the search warrant. Question, and why did you review the search warrant? Answer, we reviewed the search warrant ahead of time to make sure that everyone was aware of what items we were allowed to search and seize at the residence, and just to familiarize everybody with that warrant. Question, and the search warrant maybe for the members of the jury who didn't know, does it provide direction as to what an agent like yourself could search for and ultimately seize? Answer, yes it does. Question, can you explain to them what that would be? In other words, what controls that you're allowed to search for and what you can seize? Answer, the actual search warrant contained that, and it lists out specific items, sometimes very specific items, that we can search for and seize, as well as kind of outline for the types of things that the court has allowed to search for. Okay, and question, okay, and seize. Answer, and seize. Question, all right. Side conversing. Question, we're going to show you 2 photos on your screen which were marked for identification as 129 and 130. We're going into its contents. Agent Godin, are you familiar with that photo and the area that photo depicts? Plaintiff's Exhibit 129 and 130 identified. Answer, yes I am. Mr. Scrocky, can you go to 130, Sean? Question, and the same with Exhibit 130, do you have an understanding and knowledge of what's depicted in that photograph? Answer, yes I do. Question, and those 2 photographs depict whose residence? Answer, the residence of Schaeffer Cox. Mr. Scrocky, we offer 129 and 130. Traverso duly Hayden, no objection. The court may be admitted. Plaintiff's Exhibit 129, Mr. Scrocky. If you would publish 129, madam. The lights briefly, if you could, by Mr. Scrocky. Question, Agent Golden, I'm going to, and you could on Exhibit 129 in the photograph, which one is Mr. Cox's residence? Answer, directly in the middle, but kind of the L shape sideways. Question, on the circle with the answer L shape, yes. Question, with the blue finger, do you see that? Answer, yes. Question, that's Mr. Cox's residence? Answer, yes. Question, okay. Mr. Scrocky, if we could have 130, please. The court, I take it that it's an aerial. The witness, yes it is. By Mr. Scrocky. Question, in 130, what does that depict? Answer, this is a close-up view of Schaeffer Cox's residence from the back and the side area of the house. Question, during your time in the residence, did you have occasion to have an understanding of the physical layout of it? Answer, yes. Question, with respect to exhibit number 130 and what it depicts there, can you sort of describe for the jury what you observed in terms of the layout and the, architecture of the home? Answer, sure. There are 2 levels of residence, and the primary entrances are on street level. Pulling up in the driveway, it's at street level. That's where you enter that what appears here to be the upstairs area of the residence. Upstairs in the residence was a living room kitchen area, a bedroom den type area, and then like an office type area in the back. And that's also on the level is the garage. And then there's a downstairs area in the residence which you can see a portion of that with the 4 windows, correct, as a downstairs part of the residence. And then downstairs there are also a couple of additional bedrooms in addition to that enclosed patio type area. Question, were you able to, from your time spent searching the residence, get an understanding of the living arrangements of the home just as you just described it? Answer, yes. Question, what would that be? Answer, in the upstairs area of the house there appeared to be an area that Schaeffer Cox and his family resided in. And then there were at least 2 other individuals who resided in the bedrooms in the downstairs area of the house. Question, so in essence it's like a split level. Answer, yes. Okay. Mr. Scrocky, if you could, Sean, if you could eliminate the camera for the jury, good. Thank you. If you could pull up, please, exhibits 130 and 131. I'm sorry, 131 and 132, agent. Question, agent, do you see what's depicted in exhibit 131? Answer, yes, I do. And question, in that, what does that depict about going into the contents of it? The kitchen area of the Schaeffer Cox's residence Plaintiff Exhibit 131 identified, and it depicts a refrigerator. Answer, yes. Question, and there's some tags or some significance in terms of your search that were placed there? Yes. Mr. Scrocky, if you would, we could have number 132. Question, is there an enlargement of one of the photos of the fridge? Plaintiff's Exhibit 132 identified. Answer, yes it is. Question, and when? Let's see, Mr. Scrocky, 146. Question, okay, do you see the photo depicted there? Plaintiff's Exhibit 146 identified. Yes, I do. That's an enlargement of what's visible in 132. Yes, it is. Correct. In other words, let me be more specific. Is that a scan of the actual document itself? Answer, yes. Question, all right. Mr. Scrocky, we would offer 131, 132, and 146 side conversing. Traversal duly Hayden, no objection. The court 132, 146 may be admitted. Plaintiff 131, blah, blah, blah. Mr. Scrocky, if you could publish 131. Question, what does that depict there, Agent Golden? Answer, that is the refrigerator in the upstairs, the main level of the entrance. Question, okay. And with respect to the next two exhibits, I want you to focus your attention to the bottom half of the refrigerator. I've circled that in blue. Answer, yes. Question, that yellow note card, what does that depict? Answer, that note card that we put there when we search if there are items of evidence, and what we did in this particular case, if there are items of evidence that we were interested in that we intended to seize, we would place that card next to it, and it has a number on it, so we keep to inform items that we were seizing. And can you see the Exhibit 131, a second card? Answer, yes. Question, that would be there. Answer, correct. Mr. Scrocky, 132, please. 130 reflects that the card you were talking about, Agent Godin. Answer, yes, and that's pointing to the document there. Yes, it is. Mr. Scrocky, and 146, please. Okay, do you see Exhibit 146? Yes, I do. Why was that something you folks seized? Answer, we seized this because it contained within the warrant. It was something that we were allowed to seize within the warrant. Question, and by what reference? In other words, what made this item here particularly to the warrant that justified you seizing it? Answer, because it identified a silencer. Question, okay, how about you let me direct your attention to the first, whoops, there we go, exit, good. Let me direct your attention up to the top of the page. Answer, it says Lone Wolf Threaded Barrels. Oh, question, okay, and so you made the association that threaded barrels with what? A silencer? Question, and by what? And you're not the expert here in firearms, are you? Answer, I'm not. Question, you're smiling, right? Answer, I am not. Question, okay, with respect to this item here, do you have any understanding about whether you can buy it now commercially? Answer, I don't. Question, you don't know? Answer, I can just read what's based on. What's this? Question, does it appear to be? Answer, this depicts. Question, something you can just buy? Answer, the website is glockstore.com. Question, okay, side conversing. Mr. Scrocky, can you blow up the right? Can you blow up the bottom right for me? There you go. Question, there's a date on the page at the bottom right. Answer, yes. Question, go ahead. Answer, the date is December 4th, 2010. Question, with Mr. Scrocky, thank you, Sean. If you could eliminate the jury screen and go to 135, Mr. Scrocky, let me go back. I apologize. Let me go back to 131. Mr. Scrocky, okay, 133, please. Question, we put up exhibit number 133. Do you see that? Answer, yes, I do. And do you see the recollection about what that item was and who seized it? Answer, yes, I do. Yes, I do. Did you actually have eyes on that item? Answer, I did. Do you recall from the photograph, can you orient yourself as to what part of the home that was found in? Answer, yes. Question, where was that? Answer, it was right inside the front of the door on the main level of the entrance. Question, okay, and without going into contents, who seized that item? Answer, the Alaska State Troopers. Okay, did you yourself have an occasion after viewing these items to see similar items someplace else in the connection with your work with FBI in Fairbanks in March? Answer, yes, and that would have been what day? The answer, the following day, March 11th. Question, okay, in connection with what other type of activity? Answer, it was a second search warrant that I was involved in. Okay, and searching what kind of an item or what kind of an area? Describe it. It was searching a trailer, like a pull-behind type trailer. Okay, and based on that search and observation, did you see items that were in the trailer that correspond to what you have here in this photo? Answer, yes. Okay. Mr. Scrocky, move to admit number 133. I'm sorry. Offer 133. Traversal duly Hayden, no objection. The court 133 may be admitted. Mr. Scrocky, could you get exhibit 151 for me? Side conversing, Mr. Scrocky. Agent Golden, if I could have you without really telling, without displaying it to the jury, just pop open the box, examine the contents for us, and see if you recognize those items that are in the box. Answer, yes, I do. Question, are those the items depicted in Exhibit 133, Plaintiff's Exhibit 151 identified? Answer, yes, they are. We would offer Exhibit 151, Traversal duly Hayden, no objection. The court 151 may be admitted. Mrs. Scrocky, if you could have the lights, please, Mr. Donnelly. Question, are you able to, Agent Golden, pull those items out of the box and show them to the jury? Answer, yes, side conversing. Do you have any familiarity with that and understanding those items are? Answer, yes, these are duty belts, law enforcement duty belts. Question, are there associated law enforcement top carry holder devices with those belts in that box? Answer, yes, there are. Question, if you could just pull them out and describe them as you're going through them. Answer, do you want me to pull out every one or just examples of each one? Well, you can if you can. If you pull one of them out, let us know how many you're leaving in the box. Okay, there are magazine holders, magazines for guns, magazine holders, and I'll need more than one. Spread them out. There's a number of them here. There's a number of them, yes, a number. We'll leave it at that. Okay, more than 5, yes. Okay, that's fine. Thank you. What else do you find in there associated with those duty belts? Can I set these here? Okay. A number of handcuffs. And how many set of handcuffs? 1, 2, 3. The clerk, Mr. Scrocky, if you're going to question from there, will you please grab the lapel mic that's on the corner of Mr. Scrocky? Yes. The clerk, Traverso's table. Thank you, Mr. Scrocky. There are 3 sets of handcuffs. Question. Okay, and there are a number of duty, a number of holsters. Is there correct? I mean more than 5. These again are magazine type holsters. They are also the same type, similar type holsters that I use for like pepper spray and things like that. Again, a similar type. Okay, what is this item here? That's a case carrying for handcuffs. So let's tip this to the jury. Can get an idea about the contents that are in the box that we're not pulling out. Is this something that you're familiar with in your career as a law enforcement officer? Yes, I am. Is this something that police officers use? Yes, police officers in uniform typically wear duty belts. And where in Mr. Cox's residence was this located? Inside the front door there was a hall closet there, and it was right by the hall. It's a small entryway, the hall closet area. Are you familiar with what a SAP is? A SAP? No. How about an ASOT? Side conversing. Sorry, I started putting them back. Are you familiar with that item? I have seen them before. Do you know what it is? I do not. Do you know what you do with them? It looks similar to an asp, which is something that we use, but I have not used that before. Okay, what do you do with the asp? With the asp, it's something that you use. An asp is, I'm sorry, it's a little bit longer. It's a metal object, and it's something that you can use when in a defensive type situation with a suspect. If you need to take somebody to the ground or something like that, you can use it to actually strike them. To hit somebody with it? Side conversing. Yes, this is an address label that's top of the box, a shipping label, and it says ship to Schaeffer Cox. At that address, a scenic loop address in Fairbanks. Question, Agent Golden, do you see Exhibit 135? Answer, yes, I do. Do you recognize that item? Answer, I do. Where did that come from? This was from, again, the main level in Schaeffer Cox's residence. Question, and there's some writing on there with respect to this page that we have. Are you familiar with some of the at least 2 names that are relevant to your investigation on that exhibit? Answer, yes. The first 2? Yes. And when I think also another, if it's reading this, question, okay, correctly, there's another name on there as well. Question, so there are 3 names that are relevant to your investigation with? Answer, yes. With respect to this one? Answer, yes. Mr. Scrocky, I would move for the admission of 135. May I see it? Mr. Scrocky, is it not on your, Mr. Traverso, do you have a hard copy of that? Because I can't get it on my screen very well. Mr. Scrocky, okay. Mr. Traverso, no objection, Your Honor. Mr. Dooley, object, relevance, and hearsay. The court, I don't have exhibit in front of me. The court, pardon. Mr. Lamoureux, Your Honor, it should be in your binder. It's a photo, and after that, tomorrow, you'll have a tab so that you can quickly turn to it. Or I can just bring you this one. The court, wait a minute, I think I got it. Slide convert to the court. 135 may be admitted. Plaintiff's Exhibit 135 admitted. Mr. Scrocky, can we have the lights, Madam Clerk? Agent Golden, this is 135. Do you see there in front of you on the screen? Yes, okay. That's been enlarged. Do you see the names that are related to the investigation? Yes. That would be that person there, yes. What does that say? J.R. Olson, $100. And beneath his name, whose name? Schaeffer Cox, $500. And then skipping one, the name there, Coleman Barney, $1,000. Okay, do you have any other informant about the rest of the folks on that list there? I do not. Mr. Scrocky, thank you. If you could, thank you, Sean, 136. Agent Golden, do you see Exhibit 136? Answer, yes, I do. Are you familiar with those pieces of paper there, the writings from your search of the residence? Answer, yes, I am. That was seized by you? Answer, yes. And do you recall where they were seized from. Again, this was on the main level of the residence, and I believe this was in the main bedroom on the main floor, I guess the only bedroom on the main floor. It was kind of partitioned off into two rooms. One was an actual bedroom. You walk in the door, you have an actual bedroom where there's a bed, dressers, and that when you go in, there was a bookcase to be left, which kind of partitioned it off from a side room that had a chair and a desk and a bookcase in there, and it was in that part of the room. There was some writing on that related to, I'll just phrase, as conflict of some sort. Do you see those? Yes. Mr. Scrocky, we would offer 135. Sorry, 136. Traversal, duly Hayden, no objection. The court, 136 may be admitted. Plaintiff's Exhibit 136 admitted. Mr. Scrocky, okay, Sean, if you would just blow up one list or one side by Mr. Scrocky. Okay, this is one of what appears to be 3 on that document. Answer, yes. And it lists on the top, it says acts of war. Do you see that? Answer, I do. Question, if you could, I read number 1, firearms restriction or other disarmament. Question number 4, answer, involuntary involvement in anything. Question number 5, circumvention of juries. Question, circumvention of juries, yes. Number 8, checkpoints of any kind. Number 9, federal patrols. Number 14, child control. How about number 12, suspension of courts? How many items do we have on this exhibit? There are 17. 17 acts of war? Yes. Mr. Scrocky, thank you. If you could go to side... All right. We're going back to 136 on the bottom right-hand corner. Do you see some writing there in ink? Answer, yes, I do. Mr. Scrocky, Mr. Robinson, if you could pull that up for us. Are you able to read that, Agent Godin? Yes, I think I can read most of it. Okay, give it a shot. Mr. McConaughey signed another order barring me, I believe, from, I can't read the last word, all discussions or of references to the Constitution in this case. It is a dawning honor to be held in contempt by a system that holds I can't read the next word, law of the nation in contempt. The judge, by barring any reference to the Constitution, was held or not. I'm not sure what the word is held. When the judge signed on order barring, and I can't read that, to the Constitution, he holds the Constitution in contempt. Now it is my dawning question, would that be honor? I believe it is honor. My dawning honor to bear that same contempt. For you see, when a judge defies the law, he creates for me the duty to defy him. Question, thank you. Mrs. Scrocky, we're going to go through 137, 138, and 139 with Agent Godin. Do you see 137, Agent Godin? Answer, yes, I do. Question, are you familiar with what is depicting in that photograph? Plaintiff's Exhibit 137, identified. Answer, yes. Question, orient the court, the judge, about where you're at, where in the same home this photo was taken. Answer, sure, this is the main bedroom area where I was describing, just off to the left. Once you enter the main bedroom, it was partitioned off to be a kind of like I would call it a little den area type. Question, all right, Mr. Scrocky, let's go to 138. Question, is that what you're referring to there? Answer, yes. So the photograph was taken to the left of that bookcase depicted there? Correct. Mr. Scrocky, and then 139. Is that something that was seized from the residence as well? Answer, yes, it was. From the area that you just spoke about in 137 and 138, yes. Mr. Scrocky, we offer 137, 138, 139. But no objection from Dooley, Traverso, Hayden. 137, 38, and 39 may be admitted. Question, Agent Godin, you mentioned that you were looking to introduce the offer, Exhibit 137. Can you tell the jury what this depicts in the Cox residence, please? Answer, sure. This is, once you enter the main bedroom area straight ahead, if you take a few steps into the bedroom to the left, this is what we're going to look directly left. This is that dim top area right off the bedroom. Question, okay, in Exhibit 138. This is now. Question, go ahead. A photo, if you're right in the den looking back to where the previous photo was, and that's the bookcase, which was which is being used as a partition to partition off those two rooms. Question, okay, so if the bookcase partition off the room to the back of that what? Correct, which is the bedroom. All right, and I want to turn your attention to this board here at the bottom of the screen. Do you see that? I do. And there was that located. And where was that located? The board was behind the curtains from the previous photos. There were some flags, some curtains there. It was behind those curtains in that den area. Question, in the prior exhibit? Answer, yes. There's also, I was turned to your attention, this is another area of the yellow tags. Answer, yes. Who placed that there? The FBI did. And that's in connection to what? An item, as the search was underway, an item of evidence that we wanted to seize was located there, so we placed the card there to identify it. Question, okay, Mr. Scrocky, 139, that's an enlargement of the whiteboard we had in the previous photograph. Answer, yes. If I might, I'm going to approach you just for a second, Mr. Scrocky. Madam Clerk, if you could raise the lights. Agent Godin, I'm going to ask you if you peek into this and see if you recognize it. Side conversing. Question, is that familiar to you? Answer, yes it is. And how so? That is the whiteboard that was depicted in a previous exhibit. Plaintiff's Exhibit 148 identified. Question, that was seized by you on March 10th, 2011. Answer, yes it is. We would offer 148, no objection from Dooley, Traverso, Hayden, 148 admitted, plaintiff 148 admitted. Question, all right. Are you able to look at the screen? Answer, yeah, I can. Question, okay, go ahead. If you can see the top of the court, excuse me, you're blocking the jury, alternate juror number 2. I'm sure we can't see that. Mr. Scrocky, is that all right, Judge? Excuse me, sir. Question, okay, answer, yes. Question, how about that? Answer, yes, I can read that. Question, can you read the top line? Answer, security team. Question, okay, and then here the next line says, answer, Major Barney. Question, and there's a list, is there not, going up and down the left-hand side? Answer, there are. Question, what's on number 1? Answer, number 1 says rifle, pistol, miscellaneous, grenades, radio armor. Question, okay, or actually, they may not be miscellaneous. I can't read the first, I can just read SC, I'm sorry. Question, you can read there if I'm pointing to. Answer, correct. Sam and Charlie. Answer, correct. Question, okay, the second line, something like in car. Question, all right, and there's not another line below that concerning signal. Do you see that? Answer, microphone noise. I'm sorry. Yes, something out, signal from Colonel. Question, all right, how about number 5? Answer, actually number 3. Question number 3. Answer, it says plainclothes agents may appear in courtyard. Question, why don't you just keep going, right? Answer, okay, down the line. Answer, okay, yeah, it's easier that way. Question, number 4, returning to the building courtyard perimeter. Number, look out for plainclothes agents drawing weapon. Number 6, do not shoot unless life is in danger. Number 7, drawing down on Schaeffer, Marty, Judge Bartles. Shoot for defense. Number 8, exit crew comes out. Exit team transfers charges. Number 9, principals stick close to each of 3. The 2 following distract cops while principals escape, go to safe houses. Number 10, I can't read the first word if surveilled by agents by 2 scouts. Question, let me stop you there. Number 10, can you make out the first letter? Answer, the first letter appears to be K. How about the second, J? Okay, now read it in conjunction with the KJ. KJ, if surveilled for agents by 2 scouts. Number 11, stop all incoming and create questions for advanced detection. Number 12, trooper come to arrest, allow peaceful arrest. Number 13, plainclothes get, I can't read that word, first option. Then it says hornet's nest, OCS gas. Okay, let me stop you there. Could that be, can you see the ETHA? Do you see that there? Answer, yes. Okay, so plainclothes. Get something, ESA? Okay, and that is reference to 2 devices. Actually, it's ethyl. Okay, potentially lethal. First option, hornet's nest, OCS gas, plainclothes. Oh, I just read that. I apologize. And then it says lethal force, second option, lead poisoning. Do you have an understanding about what lead poisoning would be? Lead poisoning, I mean, okay, doesn't mean much to you. I could speculate, and I don't think I should. Question, all right. The court, I take it you're about to go on to a different subject. Mr. Scrocky, yes, sir, we're going on to switch gears. So the court, yeah, it's about quitting time, folks. I want to again remind you not to discuss the case with each other or anyone else. Don't look up anything of any sort from any source that has to do with this case. Don't read, view, or listen to any news accounts of the proceeding hearings. Keep your own counsel. Keep your mind open on all issues. Go home, enjoy the nice evening, and come back ready to go. At 8:30 in the morning, we'll start. So try and be a little early. Thank you, folks. You may be excused. You can step down. Jury out at 5 p.m. The court. I just had a couple of quick things. Please be seated. First, you don't have to ask me to move around the courtroom. If you need any counsel, that is, if you need to approach the jury to handle exhibits or anything like that, it's fine. If you abuse the privilege, I'll chain you to your chairs, but it's okay to move around on business without requesting that. I guess I kind of had in mind the lunch hour. We're doing all right timing-wise. Counsel at this point, side conversing. Mr. Scrocky, we seem to be about on time by our estimate. The court, yeah, okay, I thought you'd say we're so on time we can be done in a week, but Mr. Scrocky, I wish we could. The court, I guess what is in mind is lunch hours. I don't know how much counsel we have to do during lunch hours during a trial. I don't want to unduly stress you. Is it appropriate to look at shorter lunch hours at all all the time or on occasion, or do you want to stick with an hour and a half? Side conversing duly. Right now, an hour and a half has been useful for at least our team. The court, yeah, duly. Putting things together, and it may be that we won't feel that way. So, Scrocky, we're at the evidence, introducing stage, so at this time it is appropriate. I think we could probably change that. The court, okay, Scrocky, as it progresses, the court, well, let's call it a day today as we go, and with full hour and a half, full hour and a half for lunch. It still makes a long day out of it for everybody, okay? I guess that's all I got on my mind today. Yes, Mr. Traverso, one matter, Your Honor, the court, Mr. Traverso. Mr. Traverso, this time the whiteboard is obviously the government's evidence. I would like to be able to have the board here so that I can discuss the board with my client. I can't take the board to jail, and it would take up time in the middle of the court proceeding to do that. I'm willing to come in early tomorrow to do that, or I'm willing to do it now, whatever the parties wish to do. The court, that's a reasonable request. There's an ancillary, you could put it, I don't want anybody tampering, obviously, with the evidence or erasing anything, but Mr. Scrocky, I have some degree of discomfort with that, Judge. We have produced very clear photos of it, and we can do it again. I don't see the need. It's a dry erase board. We were nervous enough as it being in the cardboard, so we would request, we think that the photo of it is adequate. The one that was up on the screen. Mr. Traverso, I'd like the real thing, Your Honor. The court, pardon? Mr. Traverso, I'd like the real thing, please. The court, I think that's a reasonable request. I don't want anyone to mark on it or touch it, but you can put it on the easel so that it's in front of the table so that you can both can read it, and you can do it either now or later. I don't care tomorrow morning or tonight, but that's a reasonable request. Mr. Scrocky, here's the problem. Our case agent tells us that it's a piece of evidence. He's obligated to stay with it. The court, he can't stay with it. He can just stay out of earshot of Mr. Traverso and Mr. Cox. Mr. Scrocky, yes, sir. The court, all right. Mr. Scrocky, yes, sir. The court, I think they're entitled to look at the evidence and discuss it. And the government obviously has the obligation to be sure the evidence is pure and not tampered with. So, Mr. Traverso, I don't want to disturb the retention of the writing, Your Honor. The court, yeah, all right. Mr. Traverso, when you guys want to do it, that's a question. Now, Mr. Scrocky, you got to coordinate with the marshals. Mr. Traverso, oh, okay. The court, all right. Anything else? See you at 8:30 in the morning. All right. This is a matter and resource until 8:30 in the morning. The court stands adjourned to what? To call. Okay, index, opening statement. Okay, this is all the indexes. We have a list of the index of what happened. We have a list of the exhibits. And then Tammy Henrich, Heinrich, is the transcriber. And she said, I certify the foregoing is a correct transcript from the electronic sounding recording of the proceedings in the above titled manner. Okay, I'm going to continue to try to go through these documents. It's going to take a really long time. I don't know how many. There's probably close to 25, maybe 30, maybe 35 of these things. As I get time, I'm going to read through it. And reading it aloud will make me remember it better. I don't know that anybody will listen to this, but it'll be there as a tool, okay? And anything we can do to help Schaeffer,